Hello, folks. Welcome back to World War II TV. And after his epic appearance a couple of weeks ago, Ronan returns to expand on the Battle for Brest, with this time a deeper dive at a look at the attack on the city by the US 2nd Infantry Division. And it's interesting. We're just chatting that some of the lessons learned here, he'll explain this, were then picked up and used by the US Army later on. For example, the city of Aachen, and we're going to be having an urban warfare show on the Battle of Aachen in about 5 weeks' time. So it all links together. But I'll bring him in now. Good evening, my friend. How are you today?
Hey, how you doing, Paul? It's nice to see you again.
Good. I see you. So you've just before we start, this last weekend was the big event in Brest. You met John, who did the presentation about the crocodile tanks. You met people representing 30 AU, and so even someone like yourself who knows that city and knows that battle, you're still learning about it
every day. I mean, it was unbelievable because, as I told you before, studying pictures taken by the Americans, we saw some strange people that were wearing battle dress with black berets, and no one knew which unit it was. And for a long time, it was assumed that it was just a Royal Navy unit there to perform just a survey on the coastal defenses, bunkers, guns, and monitor the impact of the Allied bombings and the effect it could have. That was the official stories that was served to the American troops, because they had high security clearance, because you could see them going around the U-boat base, which was highly classified. And in fact, these guys were there to extract intel out of the nose of the American troops. So it's and they are back in business today. And of course, it's Jens Fleming unit. So so I've learned that like a few weeks ago. I never knew them, and 3 of them actually died during the Battle of Brest when the truck exploded in an ID. So this weekend we were honoring their memory with the families, and we had actual commandos, member of the 30 unit commandos. I had some of my teammates on the shipyard, former Royal Marines, to join us as well. We've met the local Royal British Legion, and we had a cracking time. And it was like, for me, being back in Scotland like 20 years ago. It was great. And I mean, we will carry on further. Of course, I've got to restrict myself to the US troops. It's so tempting to but I leave it to the experts which I met, and it was a great time with them. And
Brilliant.
it shows you that you learning. I mean, I'm 56 years old, and I'm still learning a lot about the Battle of Brest, and we're talking about major events as well. I mean, 13 units commando it's a legend on its own.
Well, I would be very bored if I felt I knew everything. Every day is a school day. That's what we like. But anyway, so let's talk about the 2nd Division. Let's talk about this epic battle. So over to you.
Yep. So this is a typical street scene taking the Battle of Brest. This is the 38th Infantry Regiment, heavy company, and to tell you the conflict I might have had and how difficult it is to extract information from veterans. I actually identified the gunner, and I got in touch with his son, show him the pictures, and I had a picture of him in his dress uniform. He looked identical, but so the son was very pleased and got in touch with his father, but his father didn't want to talk to me, and he claimed it wasn't him. I know it's him, but and he died since. So his story is lost. But I think it was too painful for him to talk about the Battle of Brest, because to be honest with you, as much as I managed to get combat informations with World War II veterans, the only side of the battles, it was very difficult for me to get any insight with them was street fighting. And I think it's because, I mean, it's up close and personal. It takes a special medieval courage to kill someone with your bare hand, and you need to go in dark places, and they didn't want to go back there, I believe. And that's why all my today's presentation is going to be based on more official reports and little bit of extracts I could get from veterans, but most of my research actually are from morning reports, after action reports, unit journals, and cross-referencing everything, and of course exchanges my notes with a specialist of the second paratroop division, Early, my good friend Early, and many others, and we just uh, collect our data together and make sure that we don't replicate each other's job, and we can
Mm.
type, and we just share informations. We don't have any egos and no problem. And
Brilliant.
of course, so the second infantry division is my favorite topic because by chance the veterans got in touch with me were from that unit, and as a bonus they fought to liberate the area I grew up, which I knew by the like the back of my hand. So the the second infantry division was created in 1917, and but I mean, his commanding officer, Walter Robertson, was a West Pointer and World War One veterans. I mean, don't be deceived with his school teachers. Look, he was a real fighter and very, very sharp and a true warrior. No, if you could move on to the next, we are going to go fast for that because anyone knows about the second division. I don't need to go back. And also I try to work at the top of my head. I try not to use notes because it's more alive, you know. And so of course I'm going to make mistakes. So I'm going to mistake names, dates. People might correct me later on, but the point is what I provide tonight is my perspective of the battle, including these guys. So of course, uh, we're talking about the main units where the Ninth Infantry Division, Ninth Infantry Regiment, commanded by Chester Hirschfelder. I mean, he's a legend. He's a World War One veteran as well, and he's got tons of medals. And I would have not liked to serve on this man because he was quite a tough guy, very brave as well. And I mean, he was basically the American version of Ramke, you know, like stuff. And then we move on to the 23rd Infantry Regiment. That's the unit that liberate the Saint Martin area where I grew up. It was commanded by Colonel J.B. Lovelace, and I think he was a West Pointer as well, and also highly decorated. But he didn't fight for the World War One. He was too young. And then we moved to the 38th Infantry Regiment, where I had lots of contacts there as well. One of my best friends was a platoon commander with Easy Company 38, and I had lots of good info with him and became a good friend. And this regiment was commanded by Ralph Zwicker, again another legend. I mean, a West Pointer as well, and with tons of medal. I'm not going to describe everything. Uh, so let's move on to the next. So we're back when we started. So the battle Brest began really when the F Corps managed to gather enough strong forces to tackle such a formidable position. The fortress of Brest, as I said before, it's like 600 guns of any caliber, ranging from 20 millimeters to 280 millimeters. It's 18 strong points, main strong points, uh, like all around the city, with tons of bunkers. And I will go quickly about some of the main position. So the main battle started on the 25th, but Middleton didn't get enough ammunition for his artillery, so they attacked with frontal assault. Well prepared the German defenses, and it took a lot of casualties during the earlier stage of the war. So let's move on to. So of course, Brest was also a task force festival. I mean, we had so many objectives that needed to be tackled. So a task force is basically a bunch of units put together and assign a particular objective, and then when this objective is attained, then every unit go back to the mother unit. So the task force B was to capture Daulas Peninsula in the south of Brest. It was just like a peninsula overlooking the harbor of Brest, where you had the highest hill in the region of Brest. So it was imperative for Middleton to capture this piece of land. And of course, Task Force B was under the command of Major General James Iflit, another great leader, very sharp and a good warrior. So if you move on, of course, let's move on to the next.
Yep.
I will just describe the main units taking part, because you have a lots of tank destroyer, field artillery units. As not going to destroy everything, and so here that the main unit was the 38th Infantry Regiment under the command of Ralph Wizzuk. Their objective was to capture Hill 154, the biggest hill, and it was not a flag battery. It was, I believe, an artillery stronghold, and this is where, I mean, American troops displayed their best tactics, and were used of surprising the enemy, and taking them by surprise, and just the German make mistakes, and they paid it cash by not protecting their flanks, and this was a bonus for men like Staff Sergeant Alvin P. Carey, the first Medal of Honor reception. Posthumously, of course, he died assaulting a bunker practically on his own. And another thing that demarked the Battle of Brest is the use of flamethrowers, which was very common in the Pacific. But in Brest, the 2nd Infantry Division made an extensive use of a flamethrower. And a flamethrower team, the portable one, was a very cumbersome weapon, very terrifying weapons. Then even any brave paratrooper would not like to be facing such a weapon, because even if you're just wounded, you're just in excruciating pain and will be out of action. And of course, there's another not known fact is the 83rd Infantry Division fought in Brest, and that was not it was classified. Most of the units were asked to mark like block all the jeep markings and take off the patch, and this was the 3rd Battalion on the 331st Infantry Regiment. After they took Saint-Malo, they came to Brest to assist the 38th Infantry Regiment in the capture of the Daulas Peninsula, and of course, as I mean, most of the 6th Armored was sent to Lorient. A lot of units of the 6th Armored stayed in Brest, like the 50th Armored Battalion and Infantry Battalion. You have the 77 anti-aircraft, and you have some units of the 86th Recon as well. And some tank battalion, like the 68th, stayed in Brest for a while before being upon. So I will show you why it was important to take, on the next slide, the Daulas Peninsula. You see, as soon as the German troops were surrounded the peninsula, and by the way, Ramke was absolutely beyond himself, learning how fast the American took the peninsula. They attacked on the 20th, and by the 30th, it was in American hands. And Ramke had a go at the commanding officer of the peninsula, which I believe it was a man called Hans Joseph Baumann from a 343, and he went absolutely ballistic on him. He says like it was such a shameful act, just accusing him of having been spending too much time in France, like loafing around and in overindulging himself with fine wine and blue smooth, and it was pretty brutal. But he was not wrong, because the German then they lost a very valuable piece of ground. So basically, the Americans launched another task force X, which was to unroll the field artillery group with the heaviest gun, and then they have an overview of the Brest Harbor. From on the eastern side of the Brest Harbor, anything that moved shot with weapon, and anything that didn't was blasted. No, like they spent even like 50 cals and everything. They did everything. And for the German, it was a nightmare to move across during daylight. So it was such an advantage. So this was the main objective. I'm not going back to explain how powerful the German artillery was. If people are interested, go back
They
to
can
the
watch the first one. Yep, yep.
but the Battle of Brest was first and foremost a huge artillery battle, because the US troops deployed the organic unit. Each division has their own organic artillery, but every division was attached a field artillery group composed of 4 artillery battalions. And an interesting fact, as much as US Army was segregated, I mean, black soldier couldn't fight. In Brest, actually, we had colored troops fighting on the front line, belonging to field artillery group like these guys, and also the famous 333rd Field Artillery Battalion, was made famous because of the Wereth 11. I don't know if you're aware
Yep,
of
we've
this.
done a show on them. Yep.
Yeah, here we go. This unit fought in Brest. And for strange reason, the American infantry, especially the Second Infantry Division, didn't segregate against Chinese. They have lots of Mexican in their ranks, and a few Native Americans as well. It was just the blacks because of the conflict that might erupt post-war with like southern states, which didn't consider them as human being yet. So it's just an interesting note. So if we move on to the next. So this is the main strongholds that the Second Infantry Division had to tackle. And now I'm just putting the main ones because
Yep.
otherwise you'll be like be here for 3 hours, and even if everyone deserves a show on its own. So let's start with of course, I mean every regiment will have his sector. I mean the 9th Infantry Regiment will be in the north, and the 38th was just coming back from the Daulas Peninsula, so they were in a rear resting, and then the 23rd was basically plugging the gaps between the 9th and the shore, and they were fighting on very wide fronts and on the eastern sector. So if we move back to the north, you see if you talk to any Manchu soldiers from the 9th Infantry Regiment, he will know Bourneuf, Fourneuf. This is just a crossroad, just two hamlets of farms, and that's were grossly underestimated by Allied intelligence, because they knew most of the most of the positions, the flag positions were clearly identified thanks to the resistance, and they were dealt with B-17s, heavy bombing. But this crossroad didn't think the German, even if it was on top of a hill, would be defended to the last, and it took, I mean, more than a week to capture this crossroad, and 140 soldiers casualties were needed to capture this stronghold, and one platoon was lost within 15 minutes. I mean, a good
Wow.
friend of mine was Ray Tarabuzi, and he was the Manchu Association commander. And he told me, Ronan, the only way I survived the Battle of Brest is because I was wounded before in Normandy. I didn't take part in the Battle of Brest because my entire squad, it belonged to I Company, was completely wiped out against in one of these deadly paratrooper counterattack. They were caught in the open and they were all killed. Within 15 minutes, a platoon was gone in a single
Wow.
bayonet charge. And then if we move on to Carvao, Saint-Udon, these are just like tiny little village, the same. The Germans fortified the whole area. This was protecting the south end of the airfield, and it took a long fight for the American to negotiate these objectives. And one interesting fact is like some German managed to capture a Stuart tank from the 709 tank battalion, and they painted this like a white cross on it, and they engaged them against American troops. And Colonel Wesson found in Carvao captured the German gun with the lost the sighting broken. And when the German tanks arrived, he engaged the tank with a German gun. This is the first time you have an American-German tank engaged with a German-American weapon. And he lost an eye, and he won the Distinguished Service Cross for this action. And this is a typical, you see the picture, this is John Yanak from the A Company in the Carvalho-Saint-Udon area. And you see the typical, like 2nd Infantry Division wearing the HBT and also carrying a submachine gun, a Thompson submachine gun. This was very common amongst riflemen. I mean, most of riflemen were composed of M1 rifle, but in the 2nd Infantry Division, they managed to get some from the 1st Infantry Division, like old school, like the kind of Al Capone size types, and also they collected the weapons from disarmed anti-aircraft units that were redispatched to serve as infantrymen. So it was not uncommon to find a squad with up to 5 Thompson submachine guns. So that's another little particularity of the 2nd Infantry Division in Brest.
And just worth pointing out, we did the show last week about Arnhem, and we're talking about how Lee Enfield rifles are not very suitable for urban warfare, but Sten guns and Tommy guns and even M1 carbines are much more suitable for that, when you're turning and quickly firing. So interesting that they have that kind of additional bit of firepower, even though the Germans have all these fortifications.
And
SMGs are the way to go.
And also, I was talking about the flame throwing team. This was like a team of flame thrower. I had, of course, the operator, his assistant, and a couple of riflemen to protect him. And he had 2 BAR gunner with him. So that's a formidable force coming your way, So there's a tragedy that happened in Le Forestic. That's a flak battery, and the German quickly realized that they couldn't hold the position any longer, so they recalled back to a next stronghold. And before they left, they set detonating charges in 6 ammo bunker, and they must have set underestimated the power of the blast, because 6 of the bunker blew in the sky high in the air as 3rd Battalion was coming on site. So 2 companies were almost wiped, most of them killed with falling debris, and also a few Germans. So at the time the Americans fought as a German territory, they just activated the mine remotely as we were coming on. But because they left all the wounded behind, and also some paratroopers, which is very rare. So that's an indication that it's just a mistake. The Navy personnel didn't know what they were doing with the charge, and they mistimed the charge as well. So that was one of the biggest tragedy and the loss of life in the Battle of Brest. Further south is Ménez-Toralan, and this is one of the biggest stronghold in Brest. I will talk about it a bit later. And then you have the woods. It's like a steep valley of Runavel, Runarchouat, Quéruillon, and these were the 1st Battalion of 23rd were ordered to do a full frontal assault, and they lost 2 companies. It's crazy. I will show a picture of actually the German position as it is today. Like here. And of course, I already covered the German Fallschirmjägers, the most formidable foes they were facing in this sector of Brest were the member of the 7th Paratroop Regiment, and also, unlucky for them, some member of Pioneer Regiment, like a 2nd Battalion of Pioneers. And these men were with explosive, and they knew how to actually deep and organize defenses very quickly, improvise like these. I mean, before you reach any strong points, you will have to negotiate I mean, a deep network of minefield, I mean, barbed wire, tripwire, and also I mean, cleverly camouflage heavy like machine gun nest like this one deep that could fire both way. This is actually covering the back. It's in the corner of a field, and they have two firing position. They have one at the back, which is like a big gaping hole, and one which is practically invisible on the other side, and providing grazing fire and covering the full field. So this, I mean, this kind of a position will open up on specific GIs. The American troops stumbled upon this position and lost of people. And of course, because the French had an area called the Birotini Saint Nicolas. That's where they stockpile 75 millimeter shells, French U-boat torpedoes, and the German paratrooper took as much as explosives they could. They could set booby traps. I mean, according to the Second Engineer Battalion, this was the highest density of booby trap mine they ever came across. And we are talking about like a daisy chain of 4 to 5 torpedoes underneath a road that could blow an entire convoy. I mean, any shell, any grenade would be set with pressure plates, tripwire, or remotely electrically charged as well. So if you move on to the next slide, of course, Brittany is famous for its thick farmlands, and we have a very thick granite building that can be turned into like a pillbox. And you will need a tank or artillery to if you don't if you want to reduce casualties attacking such a position. So basically, a German recalling back to a hamlet of farms could quickly reorganize and transform it into a stronghold, a mini stronghold. And then once you reach the actual strong points, then you will be faced with like a maze of bunkers with trench system, and it's the same like and killing fields with preset barrage of artillery mortar. And the opening stage of the Battle of Brest, most of the casualties amongst the infantrymen were due to artillery and especially mortar. Uh, I mean, a lot of people talk about the sniper sneaking about. Yes, it did a lot of damage, and it was a psychological weapon. But as soon as you fire a weapon, you're more or less dead unless you manage to rejoin your unit. But the most deadly adversaries were the forward artillery observers, and they were very. They had very good communication system and a high grid system that could pinpoint very accurate, deadly mortar fires on American troops. And dying of if you're lucky to die on bullseyes, you'll be vaporized, or you'll be shredded to bits with shrapnel. But even a near miss will collapse all your lungs, and you will basically drown on your own food, and it will take a long time. That was a very nasty way to go. And this is when you search and you have a contact with families of fallen soldiers. I mean, the official story is just he was killed by the sniper, and that's clean shot. He didn't suffer, but it was pretty far away from the truth. It was a horrible way to die. Anyway, if we move on to the next. So this is Ménez Tarolan from the sky, as it is today. And this is the first position that was attacked by the 50th Armored Infantry Battalion with the 6th Armored. They were repulsed with heavy losses right from the start, and they had to wait until the 2nd Infantry Division came along with more troops, and it took the combined effort of the 2nd Battalion of the 23rd, the 1st Battalion of the 38th, and some Rangers with heavy casualties to finally capture this formidable stronghold. And I already explained the German doctrine
Yeah.
before. So, I mean, this is Sergeant Jean McVeigh, a heavy machine gunner, squad leader, that was killed during the Battle of the Menes-Toralan, nicknamed Bloody Toralan by the American, quite rightly so. And that was the second Medal of Honor won in the second Infantry Division out of six won during the entire war, and out of four awarded during the Battle of Brest, all
Wow.
posthumously. So I give you an indication on as much as when the American troops were riding by trucks along the rolling countryside and being thrown flowers, and the German army seemed to be disarray. So they, they probably thought, well, the Germans are gone and they're pretty, the whole defense has collapsed. So we have a hope of having the end of the war by Christmas. As soon as they arrived in Brest, there's that hope soon evaporated, because most of the heavy casualties occur at the earliest stage of the Battle of Brest, where you had no chance, no other options but to go and assault this position, no matter uh, how many missions of bombing mission you send them to this to the fortified position. The Germans were too well entrenched to be vulnerable from the skies and also from artillery fires, except when chemical mortar battalion came into play, and also P-47 Thunderbolts, the flying tanks, came along with white phosphorus, and that's how they managed to to capture this position. So basically, they managed to reduce the before it was advised to leave a gap of 500 yards between the planes and yourself to be avoided to be strafed by mistake. But with this system of uh, I mean, close combat
Yeah.
command between the air force and the infantrymen, they deployed some liaison officer from the Ninth Air Force, and they had the same radio went left. They went in direct contact with the pilots, and pilots will be circling around and wait for a target opportunity, and will be directed very accurately to the right area. And also, the infantry will be in within the midst, uh, taking the German by surprise. So basically, the few Germans managed to escape or tried to escape were basically burned alive with phosphorus in that little road you see there.
Mm.
So if you move on to the next slide. So by we move on to the 7th of September, and by that time the main line of defense was breached, i.e., this ring of fortification. And you thought like this will be you broke the back of the German defenses, but in fact the Germans were very skilled in fighting in retreating. So it was very surprising to the Americans, and actually when they thought they destroyed complete units, these will reconstitute itself as Kampfgruppe in no time. And you have to remember that each squad of Fallschirmjägers had a light machine gun like a MG34, but more likely an MG42. And if you manage to retain your machine gunner, you will still have a lot of firepower. And also, there's an interesting fact about the second German paratroop division, because they were involved in they fought in Italy, and they were involved in disarming the Italian army. They had quite a few Beretta submachine guns among their ranks. So it's not rare to find Italian weapons everywhere. So a squad of Fallschirmjägers were as well equipped as the second infantry division squad with automatic weapons. So at short range, these were deadly in hedgerows. I mean, it's basically Normandy Part One, hell hedgerows back again. So
Mm.
with this little group, they will just make, just engage in suicidal defenses everywhere. Uh, all the way to the outskirts of Brest. So if we move on to the next,
Hang on.
no problem.
There we go. Yeah.
So that's a different challenge altogether. The outskirts of Brest was like the German. When you talk about street fighting, the only place you cannot fight is in the streets, because long avenue like this will be swept with deadly machine gun fire. The German will use the same technique that they use covering hedgerows. They will be covering every corner of the field. They will never occupy a position which will be quickly bypassed or surrendered. They will make sure that they could cover all area, and it will channel the Americans down to killing fields. So basically, of course, if you want to organize, if the German organize a defenses line inside the city, they are not going to do it on the edge. It's such an easy target for flat trajectory artillery. So the urban stronghold, if you wish, will be deep inside, hiding among high blocks, and they will dictate where to engage the Americans on that. But before you could reach these blocks of buildings, they will convert any parks, any fields, any rail track line, any cemetery as a killing fields, and they will have like positions further afield with a trench system. Then you see it's a better position, because you're just protecting the entrance of the eastern part of Brest, and you see then this position has been heavily bombed by base 17 probably, and most of the buildings were destroyed all around. But this position was almost unaffected, because the German gunners were amongst their own concrete pillbox called Tobruk, and then you see the German recycled a lot of French equipment. They mount turrets on another Tobruk, and everything will be interlinked another with a deep trench system with like ammo bunker, troop shelter, or whatever. So before you go to the city, you've got that wide open ground to negotiate. Which, if you go full frontal attack, you will lose everyone. So this you will have to go back to the field manual, the FM 3150, which was not bad. It was published in January 44, and it was a good base of tactics for the American troop that arrived in Brest, because this was the first time they were really faced in true urban warfare, and they will put to the test that field manual to see what works and what doesn't. So if you move on to the next, so then you reach the city proper, and by that time, as I said before, the city of Brest is split in two with the Penfeld River. The 29th Infantry Division was on the west sector. The 2nd Infantry was on the east. Initially, the 8th Infantry Division was fighting on the north, but because the German mainland resistance shrunk, and they were engaged in city fighting. You cannot have too many troops clogged at one space. So the 8th Infantry Division was sent to rest and recuperate, and they were sent to the south of Brest to capture the Crozon Peninsula, which should have been captured earlier on during the war, but Middleton didn't have enough troops to do it. So this was done later on. So if you move on to it's okay. I can describe later. So the German made use of any kind of landscape available to them, and Brest was already always been a fortified position, and they made use of old French forts like this one, and they recycled a lot of French weapons, and even like obsolete guns like the 37 millimeters like this one will be a deadly weapon, because it's hard to spot and very difficult to destroy. So let's move on to the next. That's my favorite.
Yeah, it's a
As
great
much as
photo.
Yeah, I know one of the guys taking the pictures. I've got the full account. I could go on for hours, but I've got to restrict myself. And as much as Americans used the wield 57 millimeter gun, which proved to be quite useful in targeting a machine gun nest in corner building or any pillboxes, uh, they were outclassed by the tank destroyer. As Patton, Middleton had to release all his tank battalions to Patton for his like dash to the Rhine, and that was a blessing in disguise because we had a lot of unused tank destroyer because Germany, Brest didn't have any armor, but Middleton wanted to use them as artillery support for troops, and most of the tank destroyer battalions on the 29th 8th sector were M10, but the ones deployed in the second Infantry Division sector are my favorites. The M18 L-Cat tank
Yeah,
destroyer.
yeah,
The fast.
it's yeah, wonderful. Yeah,
This is the fastest track vehicle in World War II. It could almost keep up with motorcycle. It was so fast, but so they use the speed of this. Well, it's not a tank because I've been in contact with a tank destroyer battalion, and they always consider themselves as artillerymen. It's
yeah,
not a tank; it's a tank destroyer. No, so of course, to keep it short, I call it a tank. And so as soon as the infantrymen or intelligence team identified a German stronghold or a machine gun nest or any entrenched German position, they will radio back to the tank destroyer commander. They will before they could deploy the M18 Hellcat, they will just send a barrage of mortar to hide the noise of the wheel, and the tank destroyer will quickly move in. We preset already a target. Will come in like this. Most people will scream, he make such a good target, but that tank is not staying long. With the smoke, the Germans are blinding. They are coming under a barrage of mortar fire, and then here comes this M18 Hellcat, and because his position is turrets perpendicular. He's got a better stable position to fire upon the
yeah,
German. And then once it's fired, it just recall back. And the M18 packed a powerful punch as well. He had a 17.6 millimeters high velocity gun, was perfect to just destroy a machine gun nest or even Germans hiding behind a bunker. So if we move on to the next. So this is the same M18 Hellcat. Is called the Big G, I believe, from B Company 705, and they engage inside the streets. And of course, because these were lightly armored and they had open tank turrets, it was mandatory to have the area clean of Germans. So the buildings, any armor would never venture inside a street before it was actually clean. It was too vulnerable to anti-tank German gun crew. And these pictures have been taken by a very brave war correspondent. I forgot his name, but I got in touch with his daughter. And unfortunately, he died in Germany later on. But he stated on the blast of the gun was unbelievable.
mm,
All the shutters were like all the glass were broken. All the wooden shutters were just spraying in the air, and even all the tiles were raining down. So he had to leave the position because he thought the whole building would cave in. These were very, very powerful weapon, and must have been a very fearful weapon to be dealt with the German. So by that time, you see that as much as the city of Brest is split in half with a river, it's also split in half with two streets. You've got the Route de Paris, which like it's the outer city of Brest, and then the Rue de Siam, which is the inner city center, encased in the old stone wall, like I've described in part one. So so of course, in urban fighting, because the enemy and yourself, you can hide everywhere. It's very, very hard to detect enemy, and the field of fire is greatly reduced, and the command aspect of it is complicated as well, because you don't have a clear view of where units are going, where the enemy is hiding, and you need to decentralize the command power to lower ranks up to the squad leaders. And that's what the German called the Rats War, the Corporal War. So all the tactics put in place were in the hands of platoon leader, squad leader, and they did. Staff commanders were not expected to find solution. They trusted them to you have weapons, you have an objective, you have all the troops, I know all the field manual, and it's up to you to find the best way to negotiate. And this is very true to an American army. This could be only possible because as Stephen Ambrose say, quite rightly so, this was a citizen army, and it had to you had to respect and listen to the men, and they didn't consider them as warriors, but more like skilled workers and manage. It was almost like a little company. So, and also because most English and French, we say all gears are no ideas. It's a famous phrase that still are saying about the American troop. Nothing could be further from truth. And this flexible way of commanding offer great opportunities for lower ranks to bring back great battlefield experience, and to have the chain of command to listen to it, to readapt all this field manual and just disperse among the troops like updated sheets of how to attack the fortified position or whatever else. And this is reflected the way the American soldiers are dressed as well. If you take a tank jacket, a World War II tank jacket, American tank jacket, on a M41 jacket, sometimes I wear in the streets, and it looks like a civilian clothes. It's I think they didn't want to have a bigger break that the European army had amongst the civilians, and of course they came from nothing. In 1936 there had 200,000 soldiers. It was a joke. It was maybe the 40th army in the world, and they grew to 11 millions in no time at all. And they had to quickly train people, cadre, if you wish, train officers and also NCOs, and they were short of them. So that's why it was important to respect the man on the ground and give them any opportunities to grow within, and just let him be when spit and polish, like a side of thing that is more common in the German army. And to be honest with you, it made them very practical and jack of all trades, and that was what exactly was needed to tackle street fighting. And every sector will be assigned a unit. So now everything is ensnared. The German are dictating on their own terms where they are going to engage American troops. And so everywhere you step in could be a booby trap or a sniper or mortar fire. I will describe in details a typical German street position. But the Americans had to split the city of Brest in three parts. The north was the 9th, and then you had the 38th, and then the streets just split the city of Brest in half. On the 23rd, all the way to the waterfront, had to tackle this part, and they were not going to move. As much as there are some musical chairs within units, they try to remain at regimental level. So if you move on to the next slide, we're going to focus on F Company. This is the most documented street fighting unit during the Battle of Brest. It was under the command of a 30 years old John H. Duckworth, except the smaller officer in the center. All were like a typical college football player, 6-footer, like a very, very, very intelligent and like frontline officers. The F Company were blessed with superb platoon leaders, executive officer. They were very close to the man, and these pictures has been taken just after the Battle of Brest, because the man standing with his helmet is a replacement. He just arrived after the street fighting, because one of them was wounded, but he's back. He was slightly wounded in the cheek, but these guys were tough. So if you move on to the next line, so they on the 9th and 10th of September, unfortunately, F Company was struck with a bad blow. These pictures depict the 38th sector, but if you see the background, the line of building, there's an open space flanking it, and that's where F Company was repulsed with a deadly counterattack, and they lost basically most of their senior NCOs, all their platoon sergeant, platoon guide. I just put the main ones. The guys were like the backbone of the company. And basically, the 3rd platoon lost most of their NCOs, very talented squad leaders, respected by the men. So that was a little blow for the F Company, because as much as you need good officers, to make a good officer, you need also a good sergeant. And so they had to quickly reassign PFC to sergeant that were some of them were from the start, and also by that time, unfortunately as well, F Company, like many units in Brest, were composed 70% of replacement. But some of the wounded NCO started to come back, and then they were welcome back because they were needed. So that was prior to what happened, which were the big fight, which is the Saint-Martin cemetery. If we move on to next line, I will expand to that. So in the center is the Saint-Martin cemetery, and I grew up in this area, and this is my area, and I still live today in this area. On the north side is the 38th regimental sector, and this stronghold was the Saint-Martin church around, on all the buildings around, and the picture of the tank destroyer is firing at the church, because the German, of course, didn't put the resources in the bell tower in 7 Ryan. You don't never do that. The first thing they're going to knock down is like a water tower, bell tower. The only reason why they didn't knock the Saint-Martin church bell tower is because if you drive around Brest, because it's at top of a hill, this is the most recognizable landscape in the city of Brest, and this was being used as a marker for like a U.S. artillery to deliver accurate artillery fire. Even if direct artillery fire is completely hopeless in this scenario, you still manage to use your howitzer and lob shell away from the front line, but at least you can hit a few like ammunition depot, HQ, and you will have a demoralizing aspect to the troops trying to rest in the rear. So basically, as the American troops arrived in the outskirts and entered the city of Brest, the American artillery and airplanes were still active in Brest. So F Company arrived in the evening of the 10th of September, and they threw some smoke screen and engaged from the south a couple of platoons inside the cemetery. They were met with deadly machine gun fire from all sides, and they had to recall back quickly and find a safe position along that street where H Company and G Company provided firing support, and E Company provided the flank on the left hand side. And this is typical. Then you see these two pictures. This is the typical landscape of this area. The pictures of Brest are very rare, but these were from Fred Ramage. He was a Brit that signed in the US Signal Corps, and he was one of the few World War II correspondents. We didn't go to Paris or Market Garden and stayed in Brest. That's why we do have some quality photograph. And if you see, you start to see some Fallschirmjäger surrendering, which is pretty rare. Anyway, if you move on to the next slide, this is another picture of the cemetery as it is. As you see, it's surrounded by a high 10-foot tall wall. The 200 German paratroopers were entrenched in there, and they dig trenches along the tombstones, and they use marble vaults or stone vaults and convert them in mobile pillbox. And then, of course, this picture has been taken after the battle, because otherwise you'd be dead if you tried to do this, because, of course, the streets were swept with deadly machine gun fire and automatic weapon of all kind everywhere along this building. So all the buildings surrounding the cemetery were occupied by German troops. So when you talk about a church stronghold, a cemetery stronghold, it's much wider than that. It's basically the whole area, and it's up to them, the German, to decide and to pick which buildings they are to convert into a fortress. So you see then moving across these field debris would be hazardous for GIs, and you see a dead horse. It's another thing that is very particular in Brest is the smell of decaying flesh that permeably encase your nose for the full duration of the Battle of Brest. I mean, it was a rotten flesh city. It was a mixed smell of cordite, dust, and rotten flesh. It was, and I mean, when you came to Brest, you knew that it was like a Dante's Inferno. It's not a pleasant place to be. Unfortunately, most French civilians were evacuated from the city center, so very few remained with the Germans. They were just like essential workers, like people manning the water system, the gas, the electricity. So if you move on to the next slide, then we move on to the morning of the 11th of September. So Duckworth decided, well, we are going to try to attack the German cemetery by after a barrage of mortar fire. As much as organic artillery is almost useless in urban fighting, the mortar is very useful, and they made a very, very good use of it. So are the Germans. So there, Duckworth ordered an 81 millimeters barrage inside the cemetery. They as usual, they sent smoke screen, and 2 platoons managed to breach a wall and came tried to fight the German inside the cemetery, but they were fired upon from all directions again, and a lot of soldiers were injured with shrapnels. Oh well, not shrapnel, but splinter of tombstone by basically fragments of stones,
Mm.
because the Germans were like had converted all these tombstones into basically individual pillboxes, and
Wow.
of course it was on top of a hill, so they have another view of everything. So and they commandeer all the buildings around except the ones where third platoon was, and third platoon was at that stage reorganizing itself, getting some new replacement, hopefully some new NCOs, and meanwhile they were providing covering fire. Another advantage, I think, for the US troop is like because they didn't have enough infantry division to move them about like the Brits and the French or the German
Yeah.
did. As soon as your division is out of action for 2 minute capacity, is taking off the line and replaced by another one. But the Americans could not do that, and I think it was very clever because they had the triangular system. You see, you have the first and second platoon moving forward, front line, and the third platoon will be resting. And it's the same for up to the battalion level, and that allows to rotate the troops on a regular pattern, because psychologists studied, and it will take 6 weeks of continuous frontline fighting for an infantryman to reach his breaking points mentally.
Mm.
So it was
Mm.
important that at least to rotate them, and it will be like at and dry. Maybe have hot food for a change, and not be under the constant threat of death at any minute of the time. So it's just a big weight being lifting off, and also because they were coming from the States, they had the notion to cross, and the logistics line was massive. I mean,
Yeah.
for one infantryman, you had 7 in logistic to just to deliver a key ration, for example, or ammunition. So you cannot disrupt this line of logistics, and also because the American machine, war machine, is a grinding machine. It's like the Roman army. It's just grinding you down, and they carry on, and they have tactics in place where it's not perfect, but they just they carry it with them and hope and just better them on as you go. They were learning, if you wish,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
of course, you don't want to lose the momentum, and you want to keep going. And that's the rotating system allow you to do this, and by that time, Douglas recalled back his troop and realized that that's impossible. If we are going to attack this full frontal, I'm going to lose the rest of my company. So at night, he went back to battalion headquarters, and they decided to, with the help the FM manual, he said, "Well, what I will offer you, this will take a bit of time, but I will think advisable than before we attack the cemetery will be to outflank the German by assaulting all the buildings surrounding the cemetery using wall blasting tactics, which has never been truly tried before. I think the British call it the mouse holing
Mouse holing.
system.
Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
and so this was agreed, and the American troops waited until enough engineers and weapon platoon soldiers would be deployed on site, and also one platoon of G company will come to the rescue just in case, because they were expecting to to lose many people during that fight, and also if you decide to assault each building, you need to you cannot deploy the same amount of troops on open ground than you would do in a built-up area, because there's a three-dimensional aspect on the battlefield. You need as many troops as there are stairs, and you need to occupy and defend this position. So basically, you will need at least a platoon to assault a block of flat. So if you move on to the next slide. So that's the streets where each company heavy machine gun were deployed. As I mean, there's some rumors circulating that the water-cooled machine gun were no use in city fighting. That's not true. They just had to find a fixed position, and where they were situated, unless the Germans used to put their machine gun at ground level, doing grazing fire. The American troops put the heavy water-cooled machine gun on top of the last stories to have suppressing fire pouring down inside what they could see of the cemetery. So you see, this has been taken after the battle, because they will be dead. You never try to do this, and you see already. The building are not severely damaged, but you see a bit like a debris clogging everything. So you quickly realize that this will be a daylight operations. It will be too dangerous to have people to move about at night. Duckworth sent the night prior some intelligence, some recon to do some quick patrol just to have to snoop about. They were quickly detected, the Germans, and fired upon. But at least they knew grossly where the Germans were and how to tackle this next objective. So if you move on to the next slide, then after approval from High Command and wall-busting tactic will be deployed, they made good progress. They decided to bypass the cemetery and to fight building to buildings by blowing holes. It's basically you consider all streets as river which you do not cross, or you try not to do at your risk of peril. I mean, any vacant lot, any open space, any streets, you stay clear of. And of course, in city fighting, you must secure all the crossings. It's very paramount. Then you assault the position and you deploy your machine gun in the corners, just like the Germans do as well, in case they counterattack. These pictures were taken in Brest, but these clearly are done for training purposes, because the TNT will be placed inside the building, away from the German. So this is just to demonstrate the way it's done. So how to blast a hole and then you enter the position. I will explain to you in detail the way they've done it. So you see the first and second platoon made already good progress, but it's extremely it's slow pace. I mean already the American troops were delayed in the hedgerows. It was like an attrition warfare, but urban warfare is a different cat altogether. It's even worse, and it's very dangerous to first of all to be quick, to be overzealous. You basically every night you will have a briefing of preset targets, and each unit will be assigned, and you do not deviate from it. I mean, and you move together along with the 38s as well, because you cannot have an overlap in your defense, because the German will quickly surrender if you trapped. I mean, the 8th Infantry Division in the hedgerow fighting had 2 companies, E and G 28s, captured by the German. They were not going to repeat that mistake again. So basically, everyone moved at the same pace. I mean, as soon as the objective is met, you signal your adjacent troops that it's done. If the one next to you is encountering a tougher resistance, you allocate personnel to assist them, and then you recall back. And then the only way to plan things, you will need aerial pictures, because, of course, fighting inside the buildings and will modify the landscape. So basically, every night you have to have a briefing and to reset new targets, and you have to buy by this. So of course, for an overzealous platoon leader, very aggressive, it's very frustrating to have to stop and to secure the area. But that's is need to be done.
Yeah.
You depend of the whole integrity of the entire front. Move on to the next. So this is what I talk about. This is next to the Saint-Martin church, and this was assaulted by the 30th Infantry Regiment. The reason why I picked this picture because is the German evacuated and torched it. But before that, it will be have a roof on top of it. And as much as the Americans use flamethrowers and white phosphorus and torch places during the opening stage of the Battle of Brest, they quickly realized that it was not a good idea for them because you're advancing and you need to occupy the building. So if any burning building, you need to wait until the fire is put down. You need the building to cool down before you can occupy it. You need also engineers to pull down some walls that are considered dangerous because the fire weakens the structure. But the most important thing, you the German have a clearer line of fire. They see through the building. Like we see when you have a roof, this is a block. When you
Yeah.
don't see it through, but this full block of building has got no more windows, no more floors, no more roof. And I mean the German just had to relocate some machine gun or sniper on the next set of buildings which are intact and out of view, and will fire upon the American troops, thinking they are safe behind this block of flat. And this wasn't the case. So this is a typical way the German will deploy the troops. They will first block the roads with obstacles, with same like it would be booby trap on mine. Of course, any building non-occupied will be more than likely mine everywhere. So before you enter, you send a recon squad or scouts to see if there are any Germans
Mm.
listening and observing. You need engineers in your midst to just make safe to make the building safe for your
Yeah.
troops to occupy it before you start. So basically, anywhere you could set your foot, any door handle you could pull could be a body trap. And you have to remember, these were still remains of this second Pioneers Battalion with mix of Ragaz units, but very dedicated because there's another myth also saying on it was the German paratroopers were the only one fighting in the last, but after German Ramke lost Hill 154 on the Peninsula Andalus, it decided to readjust all the entire front, and it just any any strong points of any insignificance will be commanded by a paratrooper. So basically, if you put one paratrooper with 3 or 4 Wehrmacht inside the house, it would be good enough because you will dictate them, go to the corner. And I mean, as I said before, you don't need to be Rambo to fire a machine gun through a slit or an open windows. So basically, usually machine gunners will be on the bottom floor at the corner of the buildings, each corner. That way they could extend the line of fire, and they will be not prone to be surrounded by an attacking force.
Mm.
And then you will have artillery observer, and you have mortars at the background that will rain deadly fire, very accurate on American troops. And then they had also some wheeled artillery, either anti-tank guns or anti-aircraft guns, very rapid fire. They did a lot of damage. They just wheeled them out in the night in the streets like the Americans did. And this proved to be pretty deadly for American troops. And every position will be protected by riflemen as well. And then you will have what we call sniper. They're not sniper. They are just marksmen. Any trained German infantryman are the first. I mean, arguably the best bolt action rifle in the world. Still considered as it today. I'm not a weapon expert, but that's coming from some of my friends involved in gunsmiths. That's a reputation the car 98K still has today. So basically, this is a nutshell. One German stronghold, but you have to fight to the next, to the next, to the next. And I'm going to show you how they did it in the next slide. So this is urban warfare Indian head style. So first, of course, you occupy the building, make sure it's clear of Germans. Send your engineer to clear it out of mind as well. Place your like a vertical RBR team on the corner as well, and select some just ask the guy to be on the watch and look at the lines and try to detect where the Germans are hiding. So basically, at one point, you do have in that scenario have to cross the road. I mean, there's no other choice. The way you do this is you throw a smoke grenade, preferably white phosphorus grenade, because you can kill people at the same time. So to mask, to blind the enemy and to surprise your enemy. But sometime American troops will either send these white phosphorus or smoke grenade in the wrong place to induce the German in error, and the German will redirect the fire somewhere else, and then they will also before attacking the position, they will send some smoke grenade and see where the Germans are opening up and identify every firing port and just unleash hell on them with the machine guns, the BAR team, and everyone. Before they will cross the road, of course, you need to breach the door. And so basically, you have to reorganize your unit. You cannot function at squad level because you need more people and you need to reassign jobs for each, because you have a breach team, an assault section, a covering party, and a mopping up or clearing party as well. So every soldier has a job to do, and they will have to go very quick in as a one unit. And so usually what they did was to split one platoon into two assault group. So that's why you will have up to 3 to 4 BR gun, 5 to 8 submachine gun, very powerful force to deal with. And the breaching team usually is a bazooka man. Then, of course, you don't use the flamethrower. You just attack from within. It is your interest to capture as intact as possible the position. And this is in a nutshell at platoon level the way you address the problem. If you go next slide, I will explain in details the way it's done. And this is a beautiful drawing made by Peter Dennis from the Osprey Publishing books. My favorites, you know. These are my Playboy, if you wish, book. And this is coming from the film manual, but he's redone it, and it's perfect. I mean, I know the inside of Breton houses. This could have been made in Brest, and that's basically depicting all the stages you have to follow assaulting your house. Let's reduce it to your house. You see, first you pierce the wall with a TNT charge. Usually, you have a crew of engineers that will preset the charge, and more often than not, they will pick the fireplace because it's the strongest part of the building. Because you have always the danger of underestimating the blast, and the thing might cave on your troops. So what they would do to avoid that, they will place it in the fireplace, recall back a house or two away, blasted, and the assault squad will arrive through the hole, kill every German inside the room who's groggy and full of dust and probably burst eardrums and incapable of fighting. And the the other part will number three will rush to the stairs, put some fires on the first floor, and then the other infantryman will fire through the wooden floor, because most American bullets traverse wood like bread and butter. You don't need any special weapon for this. So this is one way of doing it. You blow a hole from the basement. You quickly move up to the clear every room one by one. This is usually done by a kind of body system. Usually you cannot have too many people at once, so you cannot to avoid the bunching up, because you make a good target. So before you enter a room, preferably you bounce a grenade, and another guy enter, cover the advance, and the guy who is clearing, and you kill whatever German. Because if you throw grenades inside a room, I mean, a German could have well barricaded himself and might be just a bit confused, but still alive. So you still have to dispatch him and clear and make sure that you do not bypass any Germans anywhere. It's got to be done very, very strictly, and then you move on to the loft, because it might be some sniper, and then from the loft you will signal other units. I mean, you could do it. There's several methods for it. Either this hand signal from building to building without exposing yourself, of course, and then you will attach a piece of white cloth to the window, or you will mark a red white cross with chalk on outside of the building. To just to signal that this is clear. Let's go. Let's move on to the next. There's two schools of thought about how do you tackle room-to-room clearance. Some Americans troops prefer from the top to the bottom, because it was easier. This first action depicted, especially dealing with Fallschirmjägers, you also often run into the risk of the guy being trapped will fight to the last. He's condemned. So it was better for some Americans, easier they thought to attack from the roof down, because it would be easier also to just throw grenades. And also, all you have to do, say you clear this room, you take the mattress, unpeel the pin of 3 grenades, put the mattress, evacuate, and the blast will be directed underneath, and you could surprise the enemy will be full of plaster and debris, and you will have an advantage. And also, the German have an option to clear the house, and of course they will be picked up by cover. Like I said, they will be dead. So, but I haven't found the perfect solution. This is warfare. There's only uglier solution and uglier still. And no matter which tactics your commanding officer picks, it's going to be hard, long, and costly in your life on both sides.
Yeah.
So this is in the next. So now they've managed to outflank completely the cemetery, and now the 3rd platoon was ready to move into action, and they, with the help of 1st and 2nd platoon and G company, putting fire down on any German that was silly enough to stay there. The 3rd platoon on the 13th of September just managed to get them all, and I cannot find any proof of that, but apparently in the 2nd platoon section, the 2nd platoon sector, one American medic was found dead, and a German sniper killed him using the red cross on his helmet.
Well,
And Duckworth issued an order not to accept the surrender of any German in the area, especially paratrooper. So apparently, they didn't take any prisoner the last day, but I couldn't identify a medic that was shot, killed on the spot in that area from that unit. But it doesn't mean that it cannot happen. And I
yeah,
also heard rumors from other than actually Americans started to fire at medics first in that street because the young lieutenant in charge of the heavy machine gun unit thought it would be a German ruse because Germans sometimes disguise field artillery observer with a phone to have a direct fire on the enemy. So uh, apparently four a German medic came with a wheel cart, and that young lieutenant didn't take any chance and killed them all because he thought it was them to try to infiltrate its line. I don't know if it's true. I couldn't find any proof of that, but that's the rumor spreading. But yeah, he had to be taken into account.
mm,
I cannot. That's why I'm not. Uh, I'm not. I didn't make a slide out of it because I don't
right,
know. To be honest
okay,
with you. So as a kid growing up in Saint Martin, there's hardly any pre-war building which is not marked by war, and then I realized very earlier on as a kid, something wrong must have happened there because that is not natural, and that's kind of sparked my interest. So basically, this is a typical mausoleum made of stone. It's impervious to you will need a tank destroyer to blast that thing.
yeah,
And tank destroyers were used to help with with the F company. That was, I mean, a great help. They were the ones instrumental to just negotiate all the targets in the corner of the buildings. Any position the German were hiding was just blasted. So if you go to the next slide, so that I know about. There's not that many picture taking during the Battle of Brest, but there's a man called Max Fauchon who stayed the entire war and the siege because he belonged to Défense Passive, and he had a right to assist. He was a medic, and he was a very gifted drawer. And this for 80 years, this GI remained nameless, and he just was killed in a spot and have not only identified where he was killed and also who he was recently. So this is PFC James W. Vaughan from F Company. He was declared missing in action on the 12th and found the next day. And I find even bullet marks. He was killed from an upper position. Probably a German in the building saw him and shot him. He must have been caught inside the initial fighting and tried to hide, and he was picked up by a German. So that's a sad story.
yeah,
I mean, beyond the bravery and the weapon tactics, there's also interesting points. Is like I, I found all the reports of they were testing a lot of weapon, and as you said, the M1 rifle is very cumbersome to be deployed in city fighting. So that's why they deployed a lot of M1 carbine,
yeah,
but they modified them with like a 30 round mag, and they convert them to full automatic with a suppressor. And actually, these were deployed before they were deployed in Germany later in the war, and these were tested in Brest, and I have actually the full report of the the feedback from squad leaders, and it's a mix. Yes, it's very accurate, more accurate than the Thompson, but it's too light. I mean, I see some testimonies that the guy says I shot a German from the back running in the streets, and I saw like puff of dust flying off of him, and the guy was still running. If I had the Thompson, he would be dead on the spot, stopping
yeah,
power of the Thompson. But then you would have spread wide. and maybe not touch the guy. So
Yeah.
there's not.
There's no such thing as a perfect weapon. It's
No.
just use and practice, and yeah. This is brilliant information, by the way.
Yeah, and then we move on to the next. So of course, I only restrict myself to 2nd Battalion, 23rd, and then you see all the casualty list for the month of September. You see clearly most of the casualties are when they attacked the cemetery. I mean, especially the 12th, before they started to use the tank busting techniques. So I mean, all the black ones are killed and the rest are wounded. And strangely enough, not that many people were killed. So that method of outflanking German position and fighting room to room, taking your time with grenades and respecting the bridge team, the covering party, it worked. I mean, and most of the lessons learned in Brest were deployed a week later for troops that they were advancing toward Germany. And as I said before, I mean, all these casualties saved American lives later, no doubt. I mean, for that alone, I think the Battle of Brest was worthwhile, I think. So let's move on to the next. Now, the German found the answer to the wall busting tactic. Initially, they were taking by surprise and they didn't have any answer. So they revert back to the old way, torching the place. If they felt that they couldn't defend the place anyway, or the American was too strong, it wouldn't take any chance. And by that time, their ranks were seriously reducing, so they couldn't man the whole front. So they have to be selective about the target they are going to be defending. So basically, the Americans were stopped in that track, and they had to wait until the fire put as I described earlier on, and that delayed any further more the tactics. But at that time, the 2nd Battalion sustained so many casualties, and it was replaced with the 3rd that was obliterated during the Forestic flag battery. And at that time, they had enough fresh troops to fill the ramp, and they took over, applying exactly the same method that Duckworth put together, but not only Duckworth. The 38th and the 9th did the same. No, so, but I need to concentrate on one unit because otherwise I'll be here all night.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the 38th captured the 9th U-boat flotilla stronghold, and then they move on to this next to the city center, the main square, and the next objective for the 2nd Battalion was a little fort, but in open ground. It was very dangerous. And the 3rd Battalion was, of course, the harbor facilities and the main railway station you see here, which was converted into a big stronghold. And all the Germans were like in the tall building again.
Yeah.
And then the red line you see, this is the 17th century old stone wall, the Vauban fortification.
Yeah.
That was the last line of defense, and that was the city center of Brest. And by that time, I believe Robertson, because the 9th Infantry Regiment grew closer to the wall because they had less strongholds to negotiate than the 38th and the 23rd. They still have the railway station and everything to negotiate before they reach the wall. So they said, take your time. And he tasked the 9th Regiment to find a gap. And they tried to scale the wall. They tried everything. They were repulsed everything. It was a formidable fortification to tackle. And I will explain to you in detail how. So this is the old stone wall as it was in 1944. I picked the ones in the north sector, commanded by initially the 8th Infantry Division. I remember one of the guests was talking about Fort Bougain. One of his friends, the veteran, fought there. Initially, the position again was heavily bombed by B-17, P-47, lots of howitzer as well, with no effect. I mean, the wall is practically intact, and the Germans were dug in too deep, and they had other delaying position, and the Americans had 300 yards of open field to negotiate. So there was, again, most of the guns were directed in the corner, and they will have a clear line of fire. And this wall had to be breached somehow. So some genius came with the option of breaching the first ditch, having some security team putting some fire on German, being overlooking on top of the fortification. Somehow, the engineer, not killed in the process, will dig a hole at the base of the wall and pile as much TNT as they can, recall back, blast a hole, and then hopefully like a ramp would be artificial ramp would be created and will fill the trench, and it would be easier for an attacking force to assault the wall. Fortunately, this was not allowed because it would have been such a costly loss of life, but and it was pointless. Rather than Robertson, or to the advice of Middleton, to be honest, he said, "Look, we are winning. Just take your time. We are grinding them. They are gone." And if you move on to the next slide, then they restrict themselves. So are the 29th to outside the old stone wall. I know that I don't have time to mention the French, but French resistance didn't. Robertson didn't believe in using French resistance, but he did allow one small unit of French sailors to fight along them in city fighting, as long as they don't interfere with anything. But these guys find a way underneath the sewer system, underneath the wall, and a reconnaissance patrol from the 38th managed to breach the wall, but they were ordered back. It was too dangerous. The 9th Infantry Regiment was tasked to breach the wall, led them, and they selected the weaker point, which was at the back of Penfell River. It's called Port the l'arrière-garde, and this is where the 29th and the 2nd Infantry linked together, and they managed to scale and blast a hole inside like a small part of the fortification at the back, and they managed to capture 12 machine gun nests at the rear of the fortification. And then by that time, the most of the comps, the front of that side collapsed because it was manned by mostly Austrian troops. And so they finally find a way to the city, but they were ordered to remain out. And meanwhile, the city was pounded to the. Then they decided to torch the place. They say, we are going to burn the city to the ground using, like you see, that's a city center was left. And if you see the building is still standing because they use incendiary device, white phosphorus, and also they perfected what they started to deploy the napalm bomb in Brest, and they perfected it to silence in Brest, and they hoped that the fire will create smoke and we filled all the dugout and the ventilation shaft of the bunker, but this didn't happen. The Germans were completely unaffected, so the green light was given for third battalion of the 9th regiment to go in the city. And we move it to the next slide. So this is a map, an American map, based on of the resistance intelligence intel, and the black is the old stone wall, and you see then the way the American troops sneak inside, It's basically two company abreast, and they engage in street-to-street fighting like Stalingrad style. They lost a few men, but by that time the German was surprised to have Americans fighting in the back, and by September 11th at 11 in the morning, a German party with a white flag was sent near the headquarters of Pizonka, and to negotiate the term of surrender. So if you go to the next slide. But before they could do that, of course, the German engaged in heavily destructing all the harbor infrastructure. But you see clearly that this is not bomb, because the holes are clearly aligned. This is textbook German demolition, and it just sunk all the ships they could get their hands on, and everything was like they threw stockpile of munition, and it would have taken a few months for the Americans to have the harbor back in operation. But it could have been done, but they chose not to. So if we move on to the next, then this is the end. At the back, this is Colonel Erich Pizonka, in charge of the eastern sector. He's the commanding officer of the 7th Paratroop Regiment, and he was basically captured, well, just like 20-25 meters away from his command post. And you see with the goggle, this is Hirschfelder, very tough leader.
Yeah.
And at the back, this is Podlowski, a Jewish interpreter, an army captain. And I've got all the transcript of the exchange they had together. It's fascinating. And basically, first, Hirschfelder came to the Place Wilson, which was named after the First World War, to other American troops in involvement during World War One. That was Place Woodrow Wilson. Ironically, this is where the American captured the German. So, but at that time, Robertson came around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, being sure that it was safe. But still, as they were negotiating the term of surrender with the Germans, they were still hearing automatic fire in the dock area. I mean, one German commander, Hauptmann Hauser, Reno Hammer, fought to the last bullet, literally, as it was lost. So right to the last minute, a GI died in his senseless killing. So, of course, I mean, Hirschfelder was not in a mood to treat Pizonka as a gentleman. He was very cold. I mean, he was a tough fighter anyway. Podolsky was more inclined to talk to him, and Pizonka was surprised that the American troops didn't come sooner. He was expecting them sooner, and he thought, like, if you'd been more aggressive, you would have captured the city sooner. But they said, the Americans say, we are learning, and Pizonka said, well, you're learning very fast, because he was surprised of the quality of this one. He was not at that point a brown nosing his captor. He truly meant it. He was he changed his mind about the American soldiers, because this is another unjust reputation that the American GIs suffered post-war, especially regarding the Battle of Brest. With anyone, it's like, yes, the American blast their way out. They never taken any chance. They sent the bombers in. I haven't heard guys saying that they were sending the bombers directing all the artillery fire while drinking drinks, sitting in sunbathing. It's crazy. Of course not. The Battle of Brest, in 6 weeks of fighting, took 10,000 casualties of American troops. I mean, we're talking about 640 Indian head died in the Battle of Brest. This is huge. You don't die by being clumsy by friendly fire. So I mean, that's why I think I it's motivating me to uphold the memory of these soldiers, because they got dealt a pretty uh, stinking row with the
Yeah.
post-war historian. And of course, at that time, uh, it was fashionable in post-war autumn to not to admit defeat, the disaster of 1940, but to spread the myth that the German general were far superior, and the soldiers, the tanks, bullshit. They were not. They lost the war. I mean, by that time, the American soldier, infantryman, was far superior to the German Lancer. But it was in 1940. He was involved in a losing battle anyway. But I think it's. But I mean, World War II changed completely the map of the world later
Yeah.
on, because then American became a military superpower,
Mm.
and then this kind of changed the geopolitical
Yeah.
aspect of things. So that's why it's very important to. I mean, it doesn't make any sense for me to just restrict myself to one particular battle. You need to cover everything. You need to,
Yeah.
to cover the historical contacts, and also the geopolitical, the reason why they were there, and that the reason to uphold the memory, because I'm not naive. Me, uphold the memories of the common soldier,
Mm.
who was an ordinary man thrown into extraordinary adventure. And what is fascinating for me on how he managed to survive, or how he died. And also, I knew that the American wanted to occupy France. De Gaulle was not trusted at all, and
Mm.
Eisenhower actually hated him. And Eisenhower even wanted to put in place actual collaborators, more trustworthy, and he wanted to have in place the AMGOT with fake francs and in
Mm.
place, and
Well,
it
I
came.
think we're going to have to carry this conversation on another time, Ronan, because we're no, it's fine. It's been absolutely amazing
Yeah,
stuff, Ronan, and your passion and your dedication comes through. We can continue this at a later date, but
yeah,
we're bringing things in. It's been a superb presentation, folks. Thank you for your comments and questions. Back again tomorrow. We're looking at the Battle of Falaise Gap again tomorrow. We're going back in time again, but right now, thank you very much, Ronan, for explaining this incredible story, and I will see you all again next time. Cheers, everybody. Bye.